Hello everyone and welcome to this course about making 2D bone-based animated characters in Unity. This course is brought to you by my good friend whose name is Sander Kiss. He's an entrepreneur and an instructor, and we share common interests in 2D games and Unity development. And my name is Vladimir Limachenko. I am a Unity and a C# developer with about 3 years of experience now. So first let me answer this question. What is a bone-based character and why is it different from all the other characters? It is most likely that if you are interested in this topic, you've played some of the classy platformer games like Super Mario and Sonic. So in those games, they use a different style of animating for their characters that we can call frame-based. What I mean by that, let us take a look at one of the sprite sheets that we'll have for our characters in this course. So here on the left side of this sprite, we have all these individual frames that represent the frames of our character's animations. And one of the choices when you are making your character, you can make him out of these separate frames. So this one single picture, it represents your whole character, and you use it as one frame for your character's animation. That is one way of doing things. And we want to approach animating our character a bit differently, and I personally like this approach much more because you have a lot more possibilities with this second approach. We'll use this part of our sprite sheet that represents our character as all the separate body parts. So with that said, now if we return back to our scene and let's inspect one of our characters. Now they both look absolutely the same in the scene. This one is called an NPC because we will not be able to control this character. And in hierarchy here in Unity, he consists out of all these individual game objects that represent different body parts of this character. For example, let us select the hand, the lower part of his hand, the skirt, different parts of his legs. So our goal for this course is to learn how to make characters like this that are made out of separate body parts. And we'll also study some advanced techniques of what you can do with characters like this. If I had to make an example of a game that uses this technique that I like, I would say Plants vs. Zombies. In Plants vs. Zombies, the zombies and the plants, everyone is made using this bone-based technique. So they have separate body parts and they are animated in the same way that we'll use to animate our characters in this course. Without going into further explanations, let me launch the game, and when I launch the game, something interesting happens. Now both of our characters look differently, which brings me to the topic of the structure of this course. This course is divided into 3 sections. The first section features just this introduction video and some intro material. In the second section, we'll talk about making this character from scratch. So we'll create an empty project, we'll import all the art, we'll slice the art appropriately, and we'll try to assemble a character like this in our project. Then we'll also try to animate him. We'll discuss all the topics about transitioning between the animations that our character has. And by the end of section 2, we'll have a character that looks and behaves somewhat like this. So the character, he will be able to walk, and he will also be able to jump. So these are the 2 main animations or main states that we are making for our character in section 2. And he also triggers his jump animation when he's falling off of something. So when he's falling, he will also play his jump animation. And in the final section of this course, section 3, we'll talk about all the advanced stuff that you can do with your bone-based 2D characters, starting from the sorting order issues that you encounter if you have 2 bone-based characters in your project. Currently it's all fixed because I am running the final version of our project from this course, and when I walk on top of this other character, nothing happens, but it might happen that your characters will get interlaced in a number of weird ways, and I'll demonstrate this behavior in one of the first lectures of section 3. Next interesting topic that will be covered in section 3 is dressing your characters and changing their outfits and how they look in your scene. As you might have already noticed, when we launched the game, both of these characters, they look differently from what we had in our scene. That's happening because we have introduced a system of outfits that we can apply to our characters. And it is a pretty universal and very cool system that you can use in a million of different ways. For example, if you are using a system like this, it is very easy to reskin a game. So if you have a number of characters and you want to apply different clothing items to them and make them look differently, it is very easy to achieve with this system that will be covered in section 3. And besides just primitively reskinning our characters and changing the sprites that they already had, we can also add some new and unique items. For example, if we look at the differences between these two characters, this one, he has some more details. For example, he has a belt attached to his skirt, and he also has this necklace that are unique items that have been added to this character. And finally, I've made this one extra script just to keep you excited about this course. If I press S on my keyboard, so when I press S, this character shapeshifts and he looks again the way that he looked in our scene. So now we can control this character and we can even shapeshift while he's walking. So I can hit S whenever I want, even while he's jumping, and he will instantly look differently. And the final point that is very useful and that we'll cover in this course. If you have already made animated characters before, you know that animating characters is very time consuming, and it would be very cool if you could animate your character once and then use the same animation for all the other characters. With this system you can do that, and you can do that even if you have your characters shaped differently. Now if I press S again, you can notice that our character with the green skirt, he has a bit wider shoulders, and this also affects the positioning of his arms. So now if I press S again and back, it is easier to notice that his torso body part is different, and still both of these characters, they are described by the same animator. So I didn't have to do any extra work to incorporate both of these characters into our single animated character model, which is pretty cool, and it saves up a lot of time if you are working on your 2D characters. Now that I have mentioned all the topics that are going to be covered in this course, I would like to thank you for watching this intro, and I'll see you in the next lectures of this course.